Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts football podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. From the latest science dish, there's breakout stars, and all the news in between. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And we are back with another action-packed show for you guys today. We don't have Thursday Night Football to talk about anymore. Nope. We don't have We don't have any college games going on until Monday.
Right.
Wild card weekend doesn't begin till Saturday. So we're going to discuss on today's show the future of none other than Chip Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also going to be discussing some notable head coaching vacancies around the NFL, which one we think is the best, pretty much the best opening available and the worst opening available, but I think you guys kind of know what we're going to say about those. And we're going to end the show with our favorites for MVP, Coach of the Year, and Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year. So, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Okay, well, Chip Kelly was interviewed by Fox Sports just days after he was fired by the San Francisco 49ers after a 2-14 season. And, the 49ers were pretty terrible to watch this year, but right. I'm not going to put that all on Chip Kelly.
No, exactly.
Chip Kelly really he wasn't given much there.
Nope.
He had a bottom three roster. He probably had one of the most power-hungry general managers there, and in my opinion, I think he was working for probably not the best owner in football.
Sure.
So that's what I'm going to say there. But in this interview with Fox Sports, Chip Kelly said, "I will evaluate all jobs individually. I wouldn't rule anything out." And in his one season with the 49ers, the team lost 13 straight games, but this team was terrible. No, Colin Kaepernick was their best player, and that's saying a lot.
He wasn't terrible, to be honest.
What, Kaepernick?
Yeah, I mean, he was fine.
No.
He was fine.
I'm saying, no, the team was terrible. I'm saying they were so bad that Kaepernick was their best player.
Right.
And Kaepernick actually was decent. I think if Kaepernick had maybe one more year in a Chip Kelly system, I think he would have had a chance to be a solid quarterback in the league again. But I don't know. I just don't think Chip Kelly was given a fair shot in the NFL.
No, he's probably not.
He didn't give a fair shot with the 49ers. He was with the Eagles for three seasons. They did go 10-6 in his first two seasons there. But when he was in Philadelphia, Chip Kelly he kind of had a little too much control of the roster there. So, some fans there in Philadelphia said that he was mainly to blame for the turmoil there in the Philadelphia. Because you remember when Chip Kelly was in Philadelphia, he was responsible for practically moving out Pro Bowlers LaShawn McCoy, who had a great season with the Buffalo Bills, Deshaun Jackson, who went to the Washington Redskins, and kept Riley Cooper, which you guys kind of know how that kind of shaked out.
Sure.
And if you don't know what Riley Cooper did,
just Google it.
But Kelly had his greatest success at Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
He went 46-7 there. Probably one of the top. He literally turned that program, not just one of the top Pac-12 programs, but one of the top college programs around the country.
Oh, yeah.
So
he was there 4 years and went to the national championship game, the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl. Like, he was really, put them basically on the map.
Yeah, he is responsible why people know Oregon.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and Kelly said that he didn't want to leave his team, this year, which is very understandable. He's very loyal to his job, even though there was some really notable coaching openings in college. Like, for example, LSU.
Right. Oregon again.
Oregon was open again.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to go back in college when he was still technically employed by an NFL team.
Yeah.
He didn't want to leave his guys. Kelly told Fox Sports, quote, "I will never leave my team when there are games left in the season, so I never looked at the college because all those jobs are filled while NFL season is still going on." So Kelly had 3 years left on his contract, and the Eagles still owes him money, so technically he's still getting paid.
He's getting so much money, man.
So he's still getting paid, so I think he'll be all right even if he doesn't find a job this season. But I honestly think if Chip Kelly does want to be a head coach, I think he has to go back to college. And if he wants to stay in the NFL, I think he really needs to be an offensive coordinator. I think he can make a really good offensive coordinator in the league.
Yeah, no, he absolutely, like, if he wanted to go back to college, he's going to have the pick of whatever he wants because that Minnesota job is open now. If he wants to, like, immediately go back to college, or he can just be someone who basically decides, I'm going to sit out a year, basically watch football, be a college and pros, and whatever comes available next year, like if LSU comes available next year, if something like Florida comes available next year, like there's options that he could do if he wants to go back, or he can go to a smaller school, and just kind of do there. Like if Washington State doesn't keep winning, maybe they get rid of the coach there. Like there's options for him to go if he wants to go back. So, and you said he's getting paid by Philly, he's getting paid by San Francisco. Like he's financially fine. Like he doesn't worry about that at all. And, if he goes back to college, he can do the Pete Carroll, where it's basically like you tried your hand to the professionals, that didn't work out, go back to college, basically revitalize another program, how, back in the day Pete Carroll revitalized USC. Then he gets a Seattle job and everything's great and fine. So he can do that again if he wants to do that, or he can go and be an offensive coordinator, because for everything we want to say about Chip Kelly as far as like, player control and how that basically didn't work out in Philadelphia, we saw in Oregon, like he knows what he's doing offensively. He's a good offensive innovator. So if he decides to go the offensive coordinator route, he can absolutely be somebody that can help a team. Because I saw some report basically like that New England wants to basically have him on as like a special assistant, which is just so Patriots. It's just like, oh, he's available? Yeah, let's get him. And basically you stash him as a co-offensive coordinator behind Josh McDaniel, because you're not going to, overtake McDaniel. But if Josh McDaniel decides he wants to be a professional head coach for, say, San Francisco, or for someone like that in Los Angeles, wherever, then all of a sudden Chip Kelly can slide it back in. And if it doesn't work, then, fine. But if you're Chip Kelly, you got a lot of options, right? Because you're getting paid, so it's not like you have to be a coach somewhere. Like I said, he's still getting 3 years from San Francisco, and he's still getting paid by Philly. So he's basically just sitting back and seeing what comes available. And if he wants to go back to college, he's going to be one of the better head coaches in college, because he proved without a shadow of a doubt that when you get him in college, he's really good. Like I said, he was there 4 years, right? And in his second year in Oregon, he went to the national championship game. Yeah, he lost, but still, to get to the national championship game in your second year, that's pretty good. And then you go to the Rose Bowl, you go to the Fiesta Bowl. Like, he was absolutely someone that put Oregon on the map. And since he's left, not the same. Not the same, it's not the same kind of franchise. It's college, but basically a franchise. Not the same, university that it was when he left.
Yeah, and in the NFL, Chip Kelly went 28-34.
Right.
Across, I believe, 4 seasons.
Yeah, 4 seasons. 3 in Philly, 1 in San Francisco.
4 seasons. He did take the Eagles to the playoff in his first season. So we're like, okay, maybe this will work out. They failed to make the playoffs for the next 2 years after that. And when you look at his track record in the NFL compared to the college level, and I'm just not talking about Oregon, but when his time in New Hampshire.
Right.
Chip Kelly is a really good offensive mind in college.
And
I really do think if he decides to bring that type of his knowledge to the NFL level, I think, honestly, I think it's best to be a coordinator. I think if he learns from coaches that have been in this league, for a while, or have experience coaching in the league, I think that can actually do really well for him, and maybe can happen to go back to college. I think if he kind of like how Lane Kiffin did in college,
right?
He kind of solidified himself as a
good offensive mind,
offensive mind in Alabama. I think Chip Kelly can do the same thing.
Yeah,
but there is one college opening available in the past couple of days. That is at Minnesota.
Yep.
They are in the Big Ten Conference, which this year was known as the toughest conference.
Yeah.
Well, not the toughest, but probably the most competitive.
They had a lot, like Wisconsin, Nebraska, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. Like, they had a lot of really good programs.
The toughest and most competitive conference in all college football. Right. Minnesota, they're in the West Division, which is the weaker division.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to they're not in the East Division. They're not in the same division as Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan,
right,
and Michigan State. The toughest, they they're in that division with
they got to face Nebraska and Wisconsin, basically.
Wisconsin, Nebraska, Iowa. They've been really too inconsistent past couple years, but honestly, if Minnesota happens to, if they're interested in Chip Kelly,
right?
And if I'm Chip Kelly, and if I am in the weaker division of the two, I would say why not?
One problem with that. We saw with Minnesota with the players, right? They wanted to boycott the game, and then they basically after 2 days said never mind about that. But now they're talking about how the power struggle, the power stuff with it, it's all kind of out of whack, right? Because the coach got fired more or less for supporting his players' boycott, and there's a whole lot of stuff with that. But basically, the players aren't happy with the administration, right? And they're talking about transferring, and it's not as easy with college players to transfer because you have to basically sit out a year, but they're basically threatening to do that. So unless Chip Kelly can come in and basically like stabilize everything, like that could be a really bad job if all the players are basically against you when you get up there, because he could just be walking to something where all the players are just like, man, I don't care about this. I don't want to do this. I want to go somewhere else. And now he's basically in the same situation in San Francisco where all the good players leave.
That is technically true, but I do think if Chip Kelly really wants to kind of like solidify himself as a really good offensive mind, I do think that could be a really good spot for him.
Right.
But the reason why I think it would, if I'm Chip Kelly, and I would be interested because it is the weaker division of the two and the Big Ten. But we're going to take our first break here at the Golden State Media Concepts football podcast, and we're actually going to discuss the head coaching vacancies around the NFL, and there's some good ones, and I think there's some bad ones.
Some really bad ones. But yeah, we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that when we get back here on the episode.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. All right. So, first segment we talked about Chip Kelly and everything that's going on with him, where he could go, if he wanted to basically sit out a year. Now we're going to go to the pros. We're going to go to the NFL. We're going to look at the head coaching vacancies that are still available, right? Because obviously Chip Kelly, one of the vacancies is San Francisco, but there's a lot of head coaching vacancies all around the league, and now you're kind of doing the thing where you want to take the best offensive coordinators from a certain team, the best defensive coordinators, just the hot prospects and stuff like that, and see if you want to make them to head coaches. So not only do you have, like I said, San Francisco, but you also have Buffalo. They fired Rex Ryan. Denver, which might be the most intriguing one of them all, because now, with the head coach gone there, because he had, migraines, he had a lot of problems with that. That's available. Jacksonville, you got available. The Rams are available. San Diego Chargers are available. The Niners, like I said, all these are available. So we're going to kind of look at the best situations and the worst situations. So we'll start with the worst. Of all the ones that I just talked about, which one would you just look at and be like, no, I don't. I understand that I have a chance to be a head coach. I don't want that right now. I want no parts of that. Which one, Jeremiah, would you say is the worst?
Okay, when I compare all 6 of these teams,
right,
on paper, and if I had to pick one of them won't be the San Francisco 49ers.
That's the one you're like, no?
No.
Yeah.
No, because...
Oh, you're not going to pick them?
You're not going to pick them because your Jed York has... You will be the 5th head coach under Jed York's 7-year tenure as the owner of that team. Yeah. And if you're the head coach of that team, you better be prepared to... You better bring your A game, because if everything is not up to par within maybe 1 or 2 years. You might be gone, and you will be the third straight head coach in 3 years.
I do like how when they talk to him about, like, you know, because he fired the head coach and the GM, talking about, like, you know, well, what about you? You can fire yourself, and kind of looked at him and said, he's basically like, what? I'm gonna fire. Get out of here! Like
he totally went like Jerry Jones on it. He said, "I'm the owner of this team. You don't dismiss owners."
Like, I do what I want.
I kind of he was being true. You know, you don't really dismiss owners,
right?
But
okay,
you know,
so
the Niners head coaching favorite. I think the favorite for that position is Josh McDaniels, but I'm not sure if Josh McDaniels will take the job if he accepted it. Other coaches that have been linked to that job have been, you know, Kyle Shanahan, Tom Cable, Anthony Lynn, who I think is very underrated coaching candidate this season. I think he actually deserves a head coaching job. I think he
might stay in Buffalo. They might just keep him there.
I think he should, and I think Buffalo should keep him there, which leads us to one of our other.
I think Buffalo's fine. So for me, like, I get what you're talking about, San Francisco, and I can't really disagree with you on that. But the one I would say is probably worse than that is the LA Rams. And the reason why I say the LA Rams is basically because, okay, with the Niners, yeah, the owner situation, that's, you know, a bleep show and everything else like that, and a lot of head coaches in this time, fine. But we've at least, you know, if you're a head coach of the San Francisco 49ers and you do well, the fans will back you, right? It's one of those things, like a really historic franchise, you know, 5 Super Bowls, one of the top tier organizations in all pro football. LA doesn't care about the Rams, man. They don't. And it's not the thing, it's like, oh, well, they're bad, they don't care about them. No, they didn't care since basically the beginning, right? Because they'd lost the first game, and then attendance has been bad basically for the rest of the year. And, okay, we always talked about with the Rams, like, why wasn't a team in LA? Because the fans didn't care. Like, they had two. They had the Raiders and they had the Rams back in the 80s. And the Raiders actually won a Super Bowl, and it didn't matter, right? Like, they still had poor attendance because it's kind of like the whole Miami thing where you have so many things down there, not just, like, to do, like, with LA and Hollywood and lifestyle, but you have the Kings, you have the Lakers, you have the Clippers, you have USC, you have UCLA. Like, you have the
Dodgers.
You have the Dodgers, the Angels.
The Angels, and you have the Ducks. You got so many endless options there.
Like,
not only that, you're in Hollywood.
Right. So, like, having at best, you thought this year they were going to be 800 Rams, which they didn't get to. But it's just one of those things where they don't really, like, if you win with the Rams, cool, fantastic. That doesn't mean that the fans are going to come and support you. All that basically means is you're going to be another thing to go to because, let's be real, with Los Angeles, the Lakers, the Dodgers, UCLA football, or UCLA basketball, and USC football basically reign supreme. Like, those are basically the things that matter the most because they're the most historic. Lakers have a bunch of championships. The Dodgers have a bunch of championships. USC football, a bunch of champions. And UCLA, a bunch of champions. Like, they like winners, right? To quote your old boy Mike Singletary, you know, they like winners. They want winners. And if you're not winning, then it's just something where it's just like, okay, well, I can just go to the beach. Like, have you seen the beach? It's amazing. It's the beach. So it doesn't really matter with the head coach. Like, we all loved Jeff Fisher, not loved him, but we kind of made fun of Jeff Fisher about, you know, Mr. 8-8. And then all of a sudden he got into a spat with Eric Dickerson. And all of a sudden, well, never mind. We don't like you anymore. You can get out of town. So if a head coach gets there, and let's say you don't believe in Jared Goff, all of a sudden, if you start losing, then the fans start to turn and they don't show up. And then all of a sudden you're irrelevant in Los Angeles, which is probably the worst thing you can be in LA is irrelevant. So I get that the Niners are bad, but if they turn it around in any way, stretch, or form, the fans will come out and support you. And I can't say the same thing in Los Angeles.
That is true. That's a very valid point. If the Rams happen to start winning, will that even matter to that city?
Right.
And it's kind of funny because they have a stadium kind of being built. It should be ready by 2019. But I honestly think the coach for the Rams would be Sean Payton. And I know it's going to be tough to get him there. They will have to trade for him, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think it makes too much sense for Sean Payton. You know, you're bringing a really good offensive mind. I kind of think Sean Payton kind of wants to reboot his career, so to speak. And can you imagine if Sean Payton decides to bring he tries to bring Drew Brees with him. That bodes well for your team because you got two stars right there. Sean Payton, Drew Brees. Everyone knows Drew Brees.
Right.
Drew Brees will be a star in LA if he's not already. Then you'll get a chance to groom Jared Goff for the future. You have, honestly, I think, a top 10 running back in Todd Gurley. He's not a top 5 back after last year. And if you get some receivers there, I think this is a real good. This can be a real good team because I actually like their defense. I think they have a very tough front seven.
Right, the defense could be fine. The one problem though with if you bring in Sean Payton, like you said, you probably should bring in Drew Brees because Sean Payton without Drew Brees probably isn't Sean Payton. And also, remember when he got suspended for a full year for Bountygate? Remember that whole kind of insanity?
Yeah, I have.
Right. So he came back, won 11-5 in the first year he got back, but ever since then, 7-9, 7-9, 7-9. He hasn't been the same dude.
He's kind of, if you think about it, it's kind of like almost like Jeff Fisher.
He's been 500. No, legitimately, he's been 500 since he came back from that suspension. So, I mean, like, Drew Brees can throw for 5,000 yards every year. That's fantastic, but the team hasn't been the same since he got back. I'm not saying Sean Payton's been a bad coach since he got back, but, I mean, okay, you're going to bring in Sean Payton, but if you bring in Sean Payton without Drew Brees, he may not be Sean Payton. You know?
And I see that point. But let's talk about the best.
All right, we're going to do this on the count of three. All right?
Okay, ready?
1, 2, 3.
Denver.
Broncos. Yeah, it's Broncos. Like, because you have that defense. Like, you get Aqib Talib, who's an insane person. You get Von Miller, who's great. You get that whole, basically, defense on your disposal. And offensively, okay, you don't have a quarterback. Cool, let's go draft one. And that can be your guy. Or if he stinks and you draft him in the second or third round, okay, find a new one. Because maybe you get Tony Romo, right? Maybe you get somebody like that who's a backup on the team right now who comes in and is like, all right, I like him. And then you go from there. Like, yeah, it's Denver. It's clearly Denver.
Yeah, Denver is... Yeah, I don't think there's no argument there. I don't think we got to get on any further, but I think the favorite for that job is Kyle Shanahan, and it just makes way too much sense.
Shanahan's not bad. Yeah, I can see that.
It just makes way too much sense, and I think
you can have the pressure coming in and work for your dad, but after your dad had in Denver with 2 Super Bowls.
Not only that, but this is the best defense I still think in the league.
100%.
If you get a quarterback like Tony Romo. If Tony Romo comes to the Denver Broncos, they are a Super Bowl favorite.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Oh, 100%.
All right. But we're going to take our second break here, and we're going to discuss our favorites for MVP, Coach of the Year, Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year when we come back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. And we're at the end of the year. The regular season ended on Sunday. We're heading into Wild Card Weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We will discuss Wild Card Weekend on Friday's show here on the podcast. But as of right now, on today's show, we're going to end off discussing our favorites for MVP, Coach of the Year, Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think some of these are kind of like easy, but MVP is kind of like a little...
It's a little weird,
It's a little more weird this year. I think Coach of the Year, you can make discussions for some coaches out there. For Rookies of the Year, though, I think there's not really an argument for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Defensive Rookie of the Year is a little more tough to...
Sure.
Kind of like a little bit more tough to discuss here, but as for MVP...
Okay.
I'm going to go with a guy that probably won't win it, but he has shown that his team is nothing without him. That is Oakland Raiders quarterback Derek Carr. When Derek Carr suffered a fractured fibula, that team... Okay, they were up by 19 points in the fourth quarter. And when he left, the Colts almost came back and won that game. They got that game within one score.
That's true.
They literally were nothing without him when he went out of that game. He got hurt. 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. 19-point lead. It was like 33-14.
Mm-hmm.
The final score was 33-25. That was a score within 1 point. Within one score. It was a one-score game.
Yep.
So they couldn't literally do... They couldn't do anything.
And then they got the break speed off the next week against Denver.
Yeah, and on top of it all off, Matt McGloin got hurt in that game.
Right.
So we clearly see that the Raiders are nothing without Derek Carr, and we're going to find out a lot about this Oakland Raiders team on Saturday against the Houston Texans in the wildcard game. But that's my MVP because he has shown that he showed his value to the team when he was on the field. He's been the leader of this team on a team that was without a leader for like 14 years.
Right. Yeah.
So that's my pick for MVP. I know he's not going to win it.
He's probably not going to win it, but I like it, especially the way you're talking about how basically without him they look, terrible.
They look like the Raiders from the past 10 years.
Right. And that's not to say they don't have talent, because you got Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, and Latavius Murray. Like, you have actual talent on offense. The offensive line has been really good, but the quarterback kind of matters. And this thing is like with the NFL MVP, it's pretty much like for offensive rookie of the year, it's basically offensive rookie of the year. For MVP, it's basically a quarterback award, right? So you look in the same thing. I'm not going to go with Derek Carr, even though I think he's absolutely deserving to do it. I'm going to go with Tom Brady. And the reason I'm going to go with Tom Brady is I understand that they went 3-1 without him. That's fine. They also went 11-1 with him. And the 3-1 they went without him, the situation wasn't exactly the same with him, because you could have something where a quarterback can come in and be okay for a couple of games. We saw that in Miami. We saw that Matt Moore can come in and be 2-1 as a starter, which is great, but that doesn't mean you want him to start over Ryan Tannehill. Something with Tom Brady, he had 28 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, right, which is the best single-season mark for a quarterback, right? And I understand he only played in 12 games, but 28-2 is better than anyone's done before, because a couple years back, Nick Foles did that, and he got a contract off of that when he went 27-2. And for Tom Brady, it's something that, is he the best quarterback in the league? No, because you can probably make a legitimate case that's Aaron Rodgers, especially what he did over the last basically month and a half of the season. But name me someone else on that team, offensively, who's, someone you can throw to that you would rely on, right? Edelman's fine, but he's not anything great. Yeah, now they got Floyd from Arizona, but he's not like an all-star. I don't
even think he's been involved in the offense.
He's been a little bit. He got a touchdown last week. He's been like slowly, involved in the offense, but there's nobody. I mean, LeGarrette Blount's a good running back, but there's nobody that he's barely been thrown to, because he doesn't really throw to LeGarrette Blount. Offensively, he's been the guy, right? LeGarrette Blount did it in his absence and when he got back, but as far as offensively to throw to, he really doesn't have that person, because you want to talk about Gronk. Okay, Gronk's been hurt all year. So he's had to do this basically with the backup, which, Bennett's still a really good, person to rely on, but he's not exactly somebody who, is going to put the whole team on his back. So for me, what Brady's been doing, he might not get either. Honestly, probably will go to either Aaron Rodgers or maybe even Ezekiel Elliott, considering how that team has been doing this year. But for me, at least, I'll go with Tom Brady as the MVP of the season.
And as for Coach of the Year,
mm-hmm.
I wanted to say Jack Del Rio, but
right.
After the Derek Carr injury, this team has looked like a different team.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, Jack Del Rio has been he was part of this revitalization of the Oakland Raiders. He's a huge part of it. So nothing against him. I just feel like I thought his team would look a lot better without Derek Carr, because I thought they had enough talent to compete. But the fact that Derek Carr the fact that the Raiders looked a whole lot different without Derek Carr kind of says something to me. So but my Coach of the Year, I have to go with Adam Gase of the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to tell you why.
You can make me argue against my own coach. Okay,
2015. The Dolphins finished 4th place in the AFC East at 6-10.
They're very bad.
Fast forward to 2016. They have the same record, but it is reversed at 10-6, and they finished in 2nd place. So, for that reason of the turnaround, I had to have Adam Gase as Coach of the Year. When Ryan Tannehill got hurt, Matt Moore stepped in.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Moore has been really solid, and for that, the fact that this team has still performed and they happen to compete for a playoff spot and clinch it without Ryan Tannehill really says something to me. This is a whole different team. They look like, for the first couple of weeks, we're like, okay, they're just the Dolphins. No, they look like a legit football team from week 5 and on. Like this, like if they look like a legit playoff team, and I don't think they're going to win their wild card game against the Steelers on Sunday. But the fact that they're there within 1 year, they look like the culture is changing there. They look a whole lot different. Ryan Tannehill had a really good season. He's been really underrated this year. For that, I will have to give Adam Gase due to the changing of their culture, so to speak, within 1 year. And that says something to me. The fact that they did it without Ryan Tannehill for the last 3 weeks of the season. They clinched the playoff berth with Matt Moore. Quarterback, and Matt Moore, I think, threw for like 8 touchdowns and over 700 yards.
He's been really good. Okay, and you're going to make me argue against my coach. Okay, that's fine. Here's the thing. Adam Gase has been great. He really has, because the team started 1-3, and ever since then, just ran off with it 9-4 after that. Like, he's been really good. 9-3. I can't do math right. 9-5. Whatever. The point is, he's been doing really well, especially later on in the year. The problem is, even though they went from 6-10 to 10-6, and that's really nice, I see your 6-10 to 10-6, and I raised you a 4-12 to a 13-3 with Jason Garrett. Right,
and I did think about him in this discussion. I did
with 2 rookies, right, with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. Now, clearly, both of them are really talented and really good, but we've seen running backs go high in the draft and not pan out, and we've seen quarterbacks late in the draft not pan out either. Connor Cook is trying to be relied on right now in Oakland, and who knows what he's going to do. So for that, Jason Garrett, whatever you want to say about Garrett, whether he's just like a figurehead head coach because Jerry Jones, makes most of the calls, fine. But he's still somebody who, took a team from 4-12 to 13-3. That's 9 wins better, basically with 2 players. So for that, I give the coach of the year to Jason Garrett.
Yeah, and I actually did want to give Jason Garrett the coach of the year, but I kind of feel like he's kind of like a puppet for Jerry Jones.
I get that.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, he's done really well with 2 rookies, and that says a lot to me too. But I just feel that I kind of feel like we kind of not really expect the Cowboys to compete, but we really didn't expect the Dolphins to be playoff teams. And so for that, for them being like a breakthrough team, I have to give a little bit slight edge to Adam Gase there.
Okay.
But,
so who do you got for offensive rookie of the year?
I think
you are going to have the same person.
I think I think there's no argument here. I think Ezekiel Elliott. There's no doubt about it.
Like, you can make a
case for Dak Prescott. You can make a case for Dak Prescott.
You can make a case for Tyreek Hill.
You can make a case for Jordan Howard at the
Chicago.
For Chicago. But I just feel that Ezekiel Elliott is a huge reason why this team was successful this year.
Outside of the last week of the season, or the last game, I should say, he played with the Giants, because he didn't play the last week of the season. The last game of the season, basically, he's had 80 yards or more every single week, and what was it, like 4 weeks in a row, he had over 100 yards. The weeks before that, 96, 92, 114, 97, 97. Like, the dude's basically he has averaged 100 yards a game, over 100 yards a game every single game he's played. The man has basically been whatever you had hoped he would be for the Dallas Cowboys. He could have broken, if he had a really good game in the last week of the season, he could have broken Eric Dickerson's rookie rushing record. He could have, if he'd been a little bit better in the last game of the season, because the second to last game of the season, they took him out against the Giants after 20 carries, because basically they were just like, all right, cool, never mind. You got hit right there. Let's take you out. He could have potentially gotten 2,000 yards, if a couple things broke right this season. So, yeah, I think he's Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, and I don't think there's no argument here.
Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I don't think there's no argument here. And the case that you can make for Dak Prescott is that, he's been really efficient, but I kind of think Prescott is kind of like a little more of a product of the O-line. But that's nothing against Prescott. We
also saw when they put in the third-string quarterback, and Mark Sanchez was like, you're no good.
Yeah, so that you can also make that argument, but I just feel that Ezekiel Elliott was slightly a little more important than Dak Prescott. Because if Dak Prescott didn't have Ezekiel Elliott, I don't know if Dak Prescott would have been Dak Prescott this year.
All right, so that's offensive. Who do you go for defensive?
I'm going to have to go with Joey Bosa of the San Diego Chargers. He didn't play a full season.
Nope.
He didn't play until week 5.
12 games, yeah. He sat out the first 4 weeks.
He played 12 games.
Yep.
Finished the season with 10.5 sacks. Can you imagine if he played those 4 games? He probably would have had maybe a little more sacks, but he looks like he is the real deal.
No, he was top 5 taken in the draft. He looked like he was clearly the right person to do that.
He could have honestly been second or first pick. He could have gone a lot earlier.
Yeah,
that's how good he was coming out of college.
Yeah, and the only reason he didn't was because you want to take a quarterback. Like this year, there's a defensive end out of Texas A&M who's basically that same kind of thing, and he's not going to be taken first overall because you basically want to get Trubisky out of North Carolina and stuff like that. But yeah, he had 3 games this year where he had 2 sacks. The last 6 games of the season, he had at least a half a sack. Like, he's basically been everything you wanted for San Diego, right? Like, he was taken, I think, 3rd overall, and there were questions because he didn't really get a lot of sacks at Ohio State, so you're like, can he do it? And, since day one, first game of the season that he played, 2 sacks, and then nothing, and then 2 sacks. He's basically going to be, he already had 10.5 in 12 games, so basically almost averaged a sack a game. And, now with a full season, whether in San Diego or Los Angeles or wherever the Chargers play next year, he's great. Like, he's going to be a Pro Bowler for years to come, and is clearly a great pick by the Chargers in 3rd overall.
Yeah, and I don't think we have an argument here, but it kind of makes, signing Joey Bosa kind of late. It kind of looks bad on the Chargers' part now.
It looks good for him. It's like, I told you I was worth this, and look at what I did.
Exactly. It kind of
because that was the thing. It
looks bad on the Chargers franchise now, what you think about, because you could have had it for a full year. Could have made a really good impact early in the season.
Yeah.
But, and remember, Chargers blew a lot of games early in the season, too, so he could have been a really good part of that.
Yeah.
I don't think we have an argument for the last 2 Rookie of the Year candidates here.
Yeah.
But, that concludes our show. And that was a great discussion, Anthony. We had great discussions today. And but Ben will be back tomorrow. Of course, we will be discussing Wild Card Weekend. We're going to discuss the matchups on Saturday and Sunday, and we're going to discuss other news that we have, other news that have happened over the past 24 hours, and we might talk about the championship game that will occur on Monday. We might, we might talk about that briefly, but. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. As always, I am Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And you guys have a good day and have a pleasant tomorrow.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.